Greetings and welcome to a Keen's Guide on hunting in Medieval Dynasty. There's been a recent update to hunting and some changes that have been made since our current update to the game. Now in this, hunting has become a lot more interesting and I wanted to bring you a video about that. Let's get to it. In this video, what we'll do is we'll talk about the basics for the skills and experience and technology that relate to hunting. And then I'll go into the different buildings and how you'll use those in the village and why they're really kind of some of the worst buildings in your village and why hunting is better as a main character activity and way more fun. Then we'll look at the weapons, how they exactly work, and why I still think the recurve bow is the best in the game. And then lastly, we'll do some fun with hunting and some tips and tricks with that. Now, if you are a veteran, then you probably just want to skip straight to the weapons because you probably know everything about everything else. But otherwise, if you're new, welcome. I'd like to make sure that you feel comfortable and are able to engage in hunting in a fun way and enjoy it. So let's get right to it. Hunting can provide you with food, meat, feathers, and leather, and those are all very useful things. Fur as well. Now, depending upon what you hunt, you get different things. You can also make traps, which you press Q, at least on the mouse and keyboard version for the computer. When you go into furniture and decorations, you go into traps, and there are many different traps to craft. You'll see on the screen the different types of traps. Rabbit trap and bird trap and rat trap are for land, and then the fish traps are catching roach for the small one, and then perch, for the medium, and then the big fish net is for pike. And as you can see, they're a different size, they have different resource requirements. And you gain skill and technology for survival when you use traps, not hunting skill. Hunting skill is gained by killing and then skinning animals. Now, with the skills that you can have, first and foremost with this, and with all skills really, taking levels in hunting knowledge or the knowledge base for it is really helpful, since it gives you bonus experience. Even a bonus 5% experience is great. It will help you level up sooner. I find that taking tracker is really helpful if you want to use inspect mode. It makes it so animals are highlighted, and on the screen here you can see that passive animals, in other words they always run, are green. Orange means that they're reactive. They will run away if you come at them, but if you attack them or come close enough that it's clear that you're going to attack them, then they attack back. And then lastly, you have red, which are aggressive. They will attack you if you stay close enough. They generally give you a warning cry first and then they begin, which we'll talk about taking advantage of later. With tracker, you hold down inspect mode, you see them. Alrighty, the other skills are totally up to you. You can decide what you want to do. If you want to be a sneaker, great. I don't find it's useful, so I don't use it. Careful Hunter gives you bonus resources. You can see here I've maxed it out because I hunt a lot, and I get my leather and my fur from hunting, so I find this worthwhile. Trapping Master I did for a playthrough, and I won't do it again. I don't find any use in having extra traps. It's just not how I play, and it's not what I want to do. An accessory skill to this, in other words, a skill that levels with this and helps out, is survival knowledge. Taking survival knowledge, obviously, same story here. It helps a lot. It levels up quicker. Survival sense allows you to see things, and we'll talk about that in a moment, some of the key things you'll be able to notice. And these are just resources, not animals. Strong as an oak, now, there's two things to compare here. Strong as an oak or solid as a rock. Strong as an oak takes your hit points and adds 10%, which is to say it gives you 10 more hit points, which means you have 110 hit points. You could take solid as a rock to take 10% less damage received. Now you'll see that I maxed out strong as an oak before I even started on solid as a rock, and here's why. With strong as an oak, I have a guaranteed 10 bonus hit points. Now, let's say I have solid as a rock and I didn't take strong as an oak. We'll do a comparison. Let's say an animal attacks me for a huge amount of damage, 50 points, that's huge. As with strong as an oak, I have 110 hit points, take away 50 leaves me with 60. Okay, well how would that look if I had solid as a rock? If I had solid as a rock, I have 100 hit points. The animal hits me for 50, but I reduce by 5, so it actually is 45. I'm left with 100 minus 45 being 55 hit points. I have 5 less hit points than if I took strong as an oak as a tier 2 perk. And as I take strong as an oak, I have bonus hit points that I can always have taken away. And solid as a rock only benefits if the animal's doing a lot of attacks that are high in damage and I'm getting hit a lot. I don't tend to get hit a lot or I get killed. So with solid as a rock, I don't find it as useful because it doesn't tend to pay off over time. Plus, you can pause at any time while you're hunting, hit I, or get into your inventory, and it pauses the game for you. So boom, I'll just take a potion real quick and heal up. So I would rather have the extra hit points just so I don't miss my opportunity. And here you see 130 health. Alrighty, with that, gaining skills for these, obviously gaining skills for hunting is hunting and killing animals and skinning them. Survival levels by checking traps and taking things out of traps. which is a slow process, or just picking reeds. And honestly, in a playthrough, I had a person, Dwayne John, suggest, hey, just go pick reed and see how long it takes you if you pick all the reeds. Yeah, picking reeds gives you a huge bump to survival tech. Skill, a little bit, but it raised my tech really high really quick. And as far as the technologies are concerned, survival and hunting are together here, and they unlock different buildings. Unfortunately, the fishing hut is at the end, and then you can unlock the rest of these items. You do have to unlock certain traps through here and different crafting. And honestly, I don't craft my bows, I buy them. It's cheaper. With that, let's move on to the buildings for part 2. With your buildings, they're going to supply you with resources, and if we go into the 2 I have here, you'll see on the screen a comparison shortly of the 2. Hunting Lodge 1 allows you to gather resources and dry meat, but doesn't allow you to make salted meat, as you see. Now, these both have the exact same quantity of workers, 2 workers at skill 3 for both buildings that you're seeing on the screen right now for the Hunting Lodge. You can already tell these don't produce enough resources to make it worthwhile. When we go hunting later, we will get more than these people can get in a day, and it's quicker and it's more enjoyable. Here's the fishing hut now on the screen, fishing hut 1 on the left and fishing hut 2 on the right. And again, it's the same story. 1 worker at skill 3 in this case, not 2 workers like the last one. And you see that the numbers are still fairly small. The numbers in red on here are the pike, and I just didn't have any pike to skin at the time, and that's why you see the numbers are red. Again, I will use a fishing hut because I don't want to go fishing, and that's why my workers are there. And I want to have salted fish meat because salted fish meat sells for good money, and it also lowers the amount of food consumption you have per day. So it's helpful. But that's about the end of that. With that, we have now talked about all of the buildings, and honestly, they are not worthwhile. It is really not worth having hunters, honestly, in my opinion, but you do what you want to do. I have them there just because, why not? It diversifies what my village is doing, and at this point, we make enough stuff. Any weapon can actually be used for hunting, honestly. Anything, even the tools. An axe does a decent amount of damage. When we look at it, let's say we have the cudgel, the worst weapon in the game. 20 damage, not great. Not great at all. An iron axe will do 45 damage. The value for extraction means it does 40 damage to a tree out of 100. All trees have 100% integrity. 40 extraction takes away 40. That means 3 strikes and you cut down a tree. You can use that as a way to measure how long it takes to extract something. The iron knife does 40 damage, which is less than the axe, which means the axe is a better hunting tool than the iron knife, but you need a knife for skinning. When you do a certain series of quest lines from the northern village, you end up with Breathtaker. The reason why I have this thing on is not because it does 45 damage, but because its durability is out of 2000. So we just use this knife for the whole rest of the game. The other options for hunting are to use either bows and arrows, crossbows, or spears. And obviously the bows are different as you go. There's a basic way of calculating how much damage you'll do. So the basic calculation is simple. The bow has to be drawn. In other words, it has to be taken and it has to be drawn back. You put an arrow in it by aiming, in this case right mouse click, and then I pull back by pressing attack, and then it draws in. Now I can let go by letting go of the aim button, the right mouse button, and then I'm not going to fire my arrow in case I want to stop. With bows, you'll notice that my stamina is going to be drained as I hold it, which means having stamina potions on hand is handy. However, with an iron crossbow, and by the way, just as a side note, you cannot have the arrow for a bow equipped at the same time as you have a bolt for a crossbow equipped. In other words, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have an iron crossbow and have a bow up at the exact same time. Although, honestly, you press I and switch it, then you're done. With a crossbow, you have to hold down the right mouse button, aim button, to load it, and then after that, it's free. You take a big hit to your stamina for a brief moment, and then it's just free aiming, and it doesn't cost you anything, but it moves around a bit. This makes crossbows an advantage for people because you can load it ahead of time and then go into combat. That is helpful. It is also guaranteed to do maximum damage as soon as it leaves the bow, whereas with the recurve and all of the other pulled and drawn bows, you have to draw it up to its power, and each bow takes a certain amount of time to get to its power. The recurve is the best, and we'll talk about why shortly here. Alright, with your bows, they can draw up to their max damage. Bows go from 0 to 20, long bows go from 0 to 40, and recurve bows go from 0 to 30. You then take that damage and add the arrow damage to it, and the arrows go up in their value as you go up in technology, as you see here, from your stone arrow to your copper to your bronze to your iron, and obviously iron is the best. If you get the poisoned version of these arrows, they are always 5 damage more than their base, and they do poisoning damage, a better percentage chance per technology level. In other words, you have less of a chance with copper, a better chance with bronze, and you have the best chance with the iron arrow. The value of them goes up significantly though, and that's a thing to talk about. An iron bolt costs 100, or is 50 in my inventory, and poisoned iron bolt is 100. Poison is worth it for just making poisoned bolts and arrows for selling, and all you have to do is gather nightshade. Our crossbow does damage based upon what it tells us. In other words, it is 55 damage for the crossbow base plus the damage of the bolt. So 55 damage plus 75 puts us at 130 damage for an iron crossbow firing an iron bolt. No matter what, it always fires at that rate as long as it's loaded. Your recurve bow, at least that's my favorite weapon, has a base damage of 30, which means as long as I pull it back all the way and get a full draw, I will do 30 damage plus the damage of the arrow, 55, which is going to turn us into 30 and 55 for 85. Now you're going to feel like, wait, but that's less damage. Now comes the next part. There are other stats to think about with your weapons. You have a longbow, you have a bow, you have a recurve bow, and you have the wood crossbow and the iron crossbow. The other stats that are worth thinking about are your durability, which, by the way, the bow has 100 durability, and it goes up from there. And every shot from a bow takes away 1 durability point per arrow fired. A longbow, it takes away 0.5 durability per shot, and a recurve bow takes away 0.3 per shot fired. The next thing to consider is draw time. With the bow, when I equip it and I get an arrow up, it takes about a second and a half-ish to load that. Then with the longbow, this is where we start noticing things. When I load the arrow, 1 and 2, that's about 2 seconds for a full draw. Now, the reason the recurve wins is once I equip my arrow, 1, and I'm on. That fast load time means I can fire 2 arrows before the longbow can fire 1, or within the time it fires 1. The crossbow, when you equip it, and again put it on the bolt, I have to load it. This will take 1, 2, 3. About 3 seconds to load. Now, obviously, if you show up with this thing loaded, great. You're going to do that damage 1 time. And as soon as you have to reload, now you have to reload the thing and it will take you 3 seconds. Can you go from having that crossbow out, fire the shot, and then immediately pause and switch everything over to having a longbow with an iron arrow, or sorry, not a longbow, but a recurve bow and an iron arrow? Sure. And now suddenly I'm going over and I'm loading, and it takes me maybe 2 seconds versus 3 because I had to take out the weapon, have to draw it, have to pull the thing back. It'll take a little time. Anyway, those are things to consider for comparisons there. And the reason I consider the recurve the best, and we'll see it in the hunting trials, is that ability to load it quick and go. So if I'm fighting bandits, I'm firing more shots than if I have a crossbow. Spears are another great option. You can also use throwing stones, but honestly, I find them more silly than anything because they do 1 to 30 damage and you have to throw them and they're tricky to aim. It can be entertaining. The spear, wooden spear is not great. It doesn't stick that well. The better technology as you go, the better they are at sticking into your prey and staying on them and causing bleeding damage, which is worth noting. Arrows and bolts and spears, when they stick, cause bleeding damage when they stick, and that slowly drains hit points out of your whatever you're attacking. It's going to be a very small amount of hit points. I think it's 1 per second at most, and that takes a long time to kill them, but at least drains them down, and then you can follow those blood trails. I find the iron spear to be the best, and honestly, between that and our iron spike cudgel, if I had to choose a melee weapon to hunt with, the iron spike cudgel does 45 damage, which is the same as an iron axe, whereas the iron spear does 75 damage, which is awesome. And with the iron spear, you have the added bonus of saying, you know what, I want to throw this thing at my target and get it. Done. 100%. Oh, that's great to have on camera. How about that? Okay. So with that, if I have 2 iron spears, by the way, it is now back in my hotbar slot of 3, which was where it was before, and now I have 2 of them, so I can throw one and stab with the other. Okay, so that's a basic setup on what the weapons are. Let's go do some hunting. As with anything in life, preparation is key. Being ready for hunting, if you want to make it enjoyable and easy and really just kind of fun and not much to worry about, it's good to stay supplied. The things that you may want to have on hand while you're hunting are, I would highly recommend broadleaf plantain, and you can find it everywhere. It gives you 5 health per plantain you apply, and there's no limit to the amount that you apply. I can take all 15 of these at the same time, and I'm just set. I have all the hit points I can need back, and it's easy to find. You may want to have some weapons on hand. You'll see my inventory is way overloaded right now just from the video. Potions of healing can be handy because they give you health back. Potion of healing 2 is faster, but also gives you bonus health. Instant healing is good to get health back instantly, but honestly, you could just carry around a bunch of plantain and be fine. That weighs 0.2, and I have 15 broadleaf plantain, which weighs 0.15. If I had 20 of these things, it would be 20 times 5, which is 100 hit points. So if I just ate the same weight in plantain, I would have 100 hit points, which then brings us here, where this gives me 90 health and 10% less stamina. Doesn't matter. It's not going to be a big difference. We'll talk about that. Night vision potion is great for night hunting. You'll use your inspect mode as well, and potions of stamina are a huge deal unless you're going to use something else, which I tend to like to have a rye beer on hand because this allows me to have plus 30 kilogram weight limit and less water consumption. That's a big deal. Honeycomb can be a nice easy thing. 50% less stamina consumption and 5 kilogram weight. Not bad. Apples that you tend to get off of bandits will regenerate you half a health per second, which means 7.5 hit points per apple. If you eat one and then just wait the full time period, you will have 7.5 hit points at the end. To find broadleaf plantain, I'm holding down inspect mode, and you notice this is what's ahead of me. This is broadleaf plantain. Easy to recognize. And if you're from the UK or from the States, you've probably seen this stuff all over the place. Alrighty, with that, the other items you could think about taking are things like fish tarts, which I find to be useful in the sense that cheese as well for 50% less stamina. Fish tart, again, it's 80% less stamina consumption and 80% less food consumption. I won't be eating while I'm out and about. The other thing to consider are plums. Oh, we'll talk more about plums. Oh, will we talk about plums? Because we talked about how much damage your weapon can do, right? Okay, the reason why plums are important to me is that if I take a plum wine and drink it, I do 150% more melee damage. So that spear that's 75 before, oh, it's not 75 anymore. We're doing some real damage now. Now that applies to melee strikes. Iron club, your iron axe, anything you're attacking with, it counts for that. And at 75 damage with a spear, every time I'm striking, I'm probably taking something down or darn close to it. Potions of stamina I tend to have a lot of on hand because they're very cheap and very light, and it's nice having that 50% less stamina. Salted fish meat's helpful because less food consumption. Yeah, it does take away some water, but not a big deal. Alrighty, from there, if I drink a plum wine and you're sitting there and you're like, but I want to fight, but my guy's drunk, I have a solution for you. And that is the bucket of soured milk. So if you take a bucket of soured milk and have it on hand, you'll notice it says minus 30% alcohol. There we go. I'm no longer drunk. I'm good to go. And all it costs me is just drinking a bucket of soured milk. Perfect. Alright, let's hunt some animals. You'll see here on the screen, just as we get towards some areas, that hunting rabbits is simple. You run up to them and punch them. In order to be punching, you just need to have an inventory slot that's empty. For me, number 6. If I press 6, and then I press attack, I'm punching. I can also block, but honestly don't do that because you're not blocking stuff with bare hands if they're attacking you with weapons. Alrighty. Let's go hunt some things. Now, wolves have changed behavior in this game this time around. They now don't just simply run at you to die. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to run at you and try to circle behind you. Here's a lynx. It will run from me, and I won't get a chance to hunt it because it will flee unless I attack it. Alright, so one of them already came up on me. Unfortunately, I had puzzle killing, but here we go. So now that they're coming around me, they are going to circle around, and they're both going to attack. What I find best is if you backpedal, oh, I apologize, a little far away from the camera there. If you backpedal and attack, they're done. So the easiest way to manage them now, if you get stuck in one area and you stand still, they will circle you and continually attack, and you'll be spinning and spinning until you get them. I find if you're walking backwards, it allows you to control where they're at, and then I can time out my attack to strike them. And with the plum wine on right now, we're doing some significant hitting. Alrighty, with that, let's do some broadleaf plantain, and look at that. We'll get ourselves up to max again. Nice. And I still have 7 left. So if I needed to find more, I hold down inspect mode and just see what I can find. Let's go for bear. The thing that's changed about bear is that now, instead of just kind of standing there and waiting for you, they run at you sooner. So things will attack you quicker than they used to. Also, with the bear, it's worth noting that as soon as they come up to you, they will not slow down, and they will attack and attack and attack, and they attack faster, and they stay directly on you. So I used to be able to kind of dance around bears and circle them and poke them with a spear. It's not the case anymore. You need to be a little more careful. Let's try a thing. We're going to try with the iron crossbow. And we're going to try doing max damage to these things, and then we'll spear them at the end, and then we'll do the recurve just as a comparison. Now, what you get out of hunting your different animals depends on the type of animal. For example, if I was to attack a bear, I'm going to expect to get meat, and I'm going to expect to get fur. There we go. We'll drop one in it. And then from here, I could try to load another one. Let's go for it. It seems not to be attacking yet, and we should be able to drop this in 2 shots. Nope. So now I take out the spear. And obviously having the plum wine on us is helpful because that did bonus damage, and bears have a significant amount of hit points. Alrighty, by killing the bear and skinning it, I've gained survival skill and hunting skill and tech, and we just gained 80 fur and 30 meat. Now, let's do the same thing with the recurve bow, just to do a compare and contrast. I do need to switch to my iron arrows, and then we'll switch to our bow. Alrighty, and from here, my goal is to get as many arrows into this thing as possible before we're close. I obviously already drank a potion of stamina. It is doing its growl to let me know I'm in trouble and I'm gonna die. And then what I'm gonna do is just pepper it with arrows. Now, we have shot so many arrows into this thing. And now it's already fleeing and it's already dead before it even has a chance to engage me, and before I even have to care about having a spear ready. So, with that, that's why I prefer the recurve. In a situation where you might have something change on you quickly, it's nice to have a weapon that loads quickly. Obviously, you can get around this with hunting skill and lock and load. Faster bow or crossbow loading, honestly, does not impact the bow very much. It very much impacts the crossbow. The other good thing to have while you're hunting is your best buddy donkey. In this case, Don is here for us, so that when we get a big old pile of meat, I can drop that in his inventory. Or if I get a lot of furs, like 60 fur from those 2 bears, done. We're good to go. Now, if I want to be silly and I want to try to hunt a bear with a spear, I'm probably going to die because I'll get mauled. Let's go check out Vicent. And while we're walking there, we'll talk briefly about the different materials you get. Right, with rabbits, you'll get fur, and if you do a rabbit trap and then open the rabbit trap, you will have fur and meat, a small amount. Bird trap gives you meat and feathers, and the rat trap kills a rat and gives you just meat. If you kill badgers, you get fur. If you kill foxes, you get fur. If you kill anything that has fur, you get fur. The things that give you leather are boars, deer, Vicent, and moose. Now, you also get deer skulls from killing deer, male or female, doesn't matter. You get moose skulls from killing moose, doesn't matter, male or female. And you get Vicent skulls from Vicent. Now, you'll notice that that time, I did not get the drop on it as much as I wanted, but I still got 1 arrow out. Now, it was not doing 30 damage, and now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of play around with how it has to walk. And that was not that hard to kill with a spear. 1 arrow in it did an introductory amount of damage, and then the spear with this plum wine on, I am completely destroying it. And 31 leather, and how much meat? 71 meat. Oh my. Alright, let's do this fight and not make the mistakes as before. So before, you heard that wolf come in, and obviously I need to be mindful of where I am. Now, with that, let's finish up this Vicent. You can time those strikes really well as you practice, and obviously if it doesn't work out and you die, great, redo it and try again. Now, with this hunt, we took down 2 Vicent. We have 61 leather and 141 meat. Now, if you remember from before how much our buildings were giving us, this is way better already than that. And if I just do a day of hunting, I'm good to go. I'm gonna have more leather than I ever could get my workers to do. Now, the last thing to think about is where are you gonna find those animals, and how can you use the map to help you out? There are traveling hunters or hunters that you can ask to let you know about an area and what's in it, but honestly, just walking around the map is what I did, and look, I have all of them, except for my village, because when you build somewhere, it takes the animal spawning out of that area. Now, something to note, when you look on here, you'll see that this Vicent icon is grayed out, and this bear icon is grayed out. That means all the Vicent and bear are gone in this area for this full season. So, when it becomes fall or autumn after this, then they'll be back again, and a certain number spawn. You can see by the white silhouettes that there are many more animals around that I can get. There are definitely bear here, so I should use caution. Oh, look at that. There's wolves here. I probably should be careful when I walk into that region. There are boars here too, and they'll attack me directly. There you go. Now you'll know where to find things, and I hope that that helps you realize what's in different areas and how to know if it's out of stock or not, so that if you're doing some of the quest lines, like say for example, killing a bunch of rabbits, well, Figure out where your rabbits are, and if they're already gone in a region, you don't go there anymore. And if you need to hunt down pigeons, know that they're always by towns. And the best tip I can give you for hunting pigeons is to find dovecotes. These will have pigeons flying near them during the day, so if you're looking for pigeons, they tend to land in this area. If you go away from this for a little while, they will be on the ground. Crows will be on the ground in some areas of the villages. There's also a great dovecote in Clonica. Keep in mind too, while you're hunting birds, that it does not matter how strong the arrow is, they die in a hit every single time. Please note also that pigeons tend to get stuck. Like you can see up there, there is definitely a pigeon, and it is stuck. You can find them stuck in different parts of this village all the time. And there tend to be a lot of pigeons just sitting out here every time too. So hunting pigeons, things like that, fairly easy to do. Now, the last thing to consider, where are you going to want your village, and is it near something great for hunting? I built here because I liked the view, but it turns out that this swamp area with bear and moose and viscent and boars and wolves right next to me is perfect. I can just walk out and hunt anytime. Peacelovia is great because it has hunting access right away with moose and deer and boars. Keep in mind as you're hunting, the easy way to know what something gives you is they always give you meat. The bigger it is, the more of the resources it gives. Small birds give small amount of meat, small amount of feathers. Bigger birds give bigger amounts of meat, bigger amounts of feathers. A boar gives the least amount of leather. A female deer gives the next most amount of leather, and then a male deer, and then a female moose, and then a male moose, and then a viscent last, which is the most. And then with fur, same story. If it has fur, it probably gives you fur. So it will give you fur for your foxes, your lynxes, your rabbits, and things like that. And then bear give you the most, obviously. Happy hunting and take care.